ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणि। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. We are continuing our discussion from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 4, chapter 13 today. Which chapter we need to start?
12.28 from
12.28. Okay. So we are continuing this wonderful pastime where where Dhruva, he got darshan of Lord, then he was not so happy. He regretted that he had material desire. That's why Lord didn't take him back to spiritual world directly. Lord told him that you enjoy for 36,000 years. And Dhruva, he was regretting that he had material desires. He came back, he became the king, ruling very nicely. And as expected, one day, his brother Uttam was killed by Yaksha. His stepmother died in forest fire. Dhruva became very angry. He went to take revenge. He started destroying all the Yakshas indiscriminately. Ultimately, Swayambhuvanu came, pacified him, and Kuvera became very happy. He came, he appeared, he asked for benedictions. Dhruva, he asked for undeterred remembrance towards the lotus feet of Supreme Lord. Harau savavre achalitam spritim yayau taratyayatena duratyayam tamaha. Then ultimately he went back. In due course of time, he handed over his kingdom to his sons. He ruled for 36,000 years. He was Shila Sampanna, Brahmanya, Deenavatsala, Goptaram, Dharma Setunam. In this way, he took care of the citizens. He performed many yagyas just to set example for the citizens. And ultimately, he retired. He gave his kingdom he gave his kingdom to his sons. And then ultimately, he retired for the forest. He went to Gandhamadhan mountain. He went to Gandhamadhan mountain, did tapasya there, and in due course of time, he became purified soul. His body was spiritual. One day he saw the two associates of Lord Vishnu, Nanda and Sunanda, descending in a Vaikuntha airplane. He became very ecstatic. He didn't know what to do, and he just chanted the names of the Lord. Vigyayatau tamagaya kinkarau abhyuttita sadvasa vismrita krama na nama namani grinan madhudvisha parshatradhana vihasam hatanjali. He folded his hands, started chanting the names of the Lord. Nanda Sunanda, they glorified Dhruv Maharaj. So we were on verse number 28. Okay. Sunanda and Sunanda, they are glorifying. And now they are telling Dhruva, please come. Now this is very, very interesting verse. I'll just share the screen just a minute. This is classic, description of how duty bound a sadhaka is, a devotee is, how attached a devotee is to his spiritual practices. The path of devotional service is not like Ashtanga and Jnana, where one has to leave that path And this verse very classically describes, we'll recite this verse, 28th verse. Maitreya Uvacha
Maitreya Uvacha
Nishamya Vaikuntha Niyojya Mukhyayo
Nishamya
Vaikuntha
Vaikuntha
Madhuchutam Vacha Murukrama Priya
Madhuchyutam
Kritabhisheka Kritanitya Mangalo Munin Pranamya Shishamabhyavadayat.
Munim
The great sage Maitreya continued, Maharaj Dhruva was very dear to Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he heard the sweet speeches of the Lord's chief associates in the Vaikuntha planet, he immediately took his sacred bath, dressed himself with the suitable ornaments, and performed his daily spiritual duties. Thereafter, he offered his respectable obeisances to the great sages present there and accepted their blessings.
Okay. So now Nishamya means when he heard. Nishamya Vaikuntha Niyojya Mukhyayo. When he heard the very beautiful the words and speech of Mukhyaya, the chief of the associates. Those words, they were like Madhuchutam. Madhuchutam means honey was pouring from their mouth. Urukrama Priyaha. They spoke these words to Dhruv Maharaj. So Dhruv Maharaj, now he was invited to board the Vaikuntha airplane. So naturally, what he had to do? Just board the airplane. That's it. But two things which Dhruv Maharaj does here are very, very instructive, and it shows the nature of a devotee. Kritabhisheka Kritanitya Mangalo. He took his sacred bath, performed his daily spiritual duties. Just imagine if कल सुबह उठे आप 16 माला का जप करने के लिए हाथ में माला लेके बैठे ही हैं, वैकुंठ विमान आया, बोले वत्स चलो. What is the next thing we'll do? Arre, jai ho. I'm going back to spiritual world. You know what Dhruva did? He made them wait. मुझे पहले मेरा 16 माला करना है. Can you imagine? He performed his daily spiritual duties. He didn't tell कि अभी तो भगवत धाम जा ही रहे हैं, अभी क्या जरूरत है ऐसा माला वाला करने का, अभी उधर जाके करेंगे जो करना है. कृताभिषेका Krita Nitya Mangal. He performed his daily duties. That is very, very instructive of a sadhaka. That is how a duty bound a sadhaka is. कुछ भी हो, भगवान भी आके बोलेंगे माला बेटा आजा चल, बोले नहीं माला करके आऊंगा. So that's how. Just like when Haridas Thakur, he was old and Mahaprabhu told, now you don't have to chant all these 192 rounds. You have already perfected your life. You have set a wonderful example. You are liberated. He said, no, Mahaprabhu, I can't. I can't stop. And recently, very wonderful, episode happened when Kadamba Kanan Maharaj, he left for the spiritual world. And Jayadvait Maharaj, who is the spiritual master of Kadamba Kanan Maharaj, he was telling this on the memorial day. He said, in the last few days, Kadamba Kanan Maharaj was so weak. It was taking him practically whole day to chant 16 rounds, many hours. And Jayadvait Maharaj, he came and he went and told Kadam Karan Maharaj, Maharaj, now you don't have to chant 16 rounds. For you, 16 mantras, they are 16 rounds for you. Don't struggle so much. You have already perfected your life. So Kadam Karan Maharaj, he said, Maharaj, please don't give me such instruction, such order. I have to chant. And Jayadvait Maharaj, as he was speaking this, he had tears in his eyes. For a person like Jayadvat Maharaj to have tears in his eyes, who is known to be a very, not so emotional type of person, very straightforward. That is how a devotee's commitment towards sadhana is. You are already perfected, still I will chant. And Dhruva is showing by his example. Kritabhisheka Kritanitya Mangalo, Prabhupada writes. We should mark how dutiful Dhruv Maharaj was in his devotional service. That is the duty of a sadhaka, duty bound. Whatever may happen, I will continue my devotional practice. Even if Lord comes and tells, Beta mat kar chanting, still I will chant. That is the commitment of a sadhaka towards chanting. Even at the time he left this material world, he was constantly alert in the performance of devotional duties. And then Prabhupada writes how every devotee should take bath for Krita Abhisheka. He took early bath. So Prabhupada writes about that. And another very, very, very powerful thing which Dhruva did. Munin pranamya shishamabhyavadayat. None of the other sages are going back to spiritual world. No Vaikuntha Viman has come for any other sage. It was not a wholesale delivery. वही सबको लेके जाना है चलो. The plane had come only for Dhruva. But a devotee always understands whatever I am, it is because of the devotee's mercy. We are made of mercy of devotees. Even if we are liberated, Dhruv Maharaj is showing by his example. We should never think I have done it on my own. He is not telling none of you are going, I am going, just see. Neither he had that mood, or nor that okay ठीक है अभी I'll just say goodbye, I'm going. What he did, pranamya, he offered obeisances to each and every sage present there. What was the need? He was a liberated sage. He was a liberated soul, pure devotee of the Lord. Entire universe knew his glories. But Dhruva is setting example that a devotee, however great, however exalted, however famous, but one never forgets that whatever I am is because of the mercy of the devotees. So he offered his respectful obeisances to the great sages present there and accepted their blessings. Prabhupada writes, since Dhruva was living at the house at that time at Badrik Ashram, there were many sages present there. He did not become puffed up because airplane sent by Vishnu, Lord Vishnu was waiting for him. He was not proud. A devotee is never ever proud of any of his achievements. ये तो मैंने अपने बलबूते पे किया है, इसमें कोई डिवोटी ने मेरे को हेल्प नहीं किया. Never ever a devotee feels like that. Even if nobody helped apparently directly, because many devotees prayed for us. That's why we are able to do this. एकाकी अमार नहीं पाए बल हरि नाम संकीर्तने तुम्ही कृपा करी श्रद्धा बिंदु दिया देहो कृष्ण नाम धने. So that is a humble Vaishnava. As a humble Vaishnava, he accepted blessings from all the sages. Why? What is the need of taking blessings now? तो अब तो जा रहे हैं ना. The purpose of why we ask blessings? Oh, I want to get liberated. I want to serve the Lord. अभी तो हो गया, लिबरेशन हो गया, अभी तो भगवत धाम जा रहे हैं, अब क्या की जरूरत है? Why is asking for blessings now? Because devotional service doesn't end there. Devotional service continues in the spiritual world. उसके लिए आशीर्वाद चाहिए. So that I can serve Krishna better, properly there. Just like, many times when devotees, they go for Tirth Yatra, they ask for blessings. Somebody may say, Baba, you are going, I am not going. Why are you asking me? Because I may be in right consciousness. I can serve the Lord better there. So that is a humble Dhruva. He is asking blessings from each and every sage present there. Always seeking blessings. However, whoever you may be, we may be, it is not because we are great. छोटा बड़ा भक्तगण बंदो सभा श्री चरण सबे मोरे कर हसंतोष श्री रूप गोसाइयत रूप रघुनाथ जानियत ताई लिखी नहीं मोर दोष. Kaviraj Goswami says he is writing a PhD thesis, a PhD literature of Vaishnavism. How big he is, how great he is, and what is he saying? Chota bada bhaktagan bando sabha Sri Charan. I offer my respects. I seek blessings of each and every devotee. छोटा भक्त हो या बड़ा भक्त हो, ऐसा नहीं कि बड़े भक्त से ही अरे छोटे भक्त से क्या लेना है blessings. I will take blessings from senior devotee, right? छोटा भक्तगण बड़ा भक्तगण बंदो सबार श्री चरण. Every devotee is equally qualified to give us blessings. Sabe mora karaha santosh. Please be merciful to me. So this pride will come. Of course, it will come in due course of time. The fact that when we spend few years in Krishna consciousness, we become known in the devotee community. We are respected in the devotee community. Pride will come. At that time, we should remind ourselves regularly that nothing belongs to me. Whatever I am, it is by the mercy of devotees. And Kaviraj Goswami, in this verse and through Maharaj by his example, is showing, I am nothing. I am just made of mercy of devotees. Murkha, Neech, Shudra, Ami, Vishay, Lalas, Vaishnava, Agya, Bole, Kore, Ete ka Sahas. So Kaviraj Goswami says, I am foolish, fallen, insignificant, absorbed in sense gratification. Vaishnava Agya Bale. Because the Vaishnavas, they are so merciful. That's why I'm daring to write this literature. Now, what happened? Now, somebody can read the, okay, I'll read the verse. Prati Parityabhyarcha Dhishnyangriyam Parashada Vivandya cha Parshadav Abhivandya cha Yeshyatat Adhishtatum Bibhradrupam Hiranmayam. Translation.
Before getting up,
Before getting abroad, Dhruv Maharaj worshipped the airplane, circumambulated it, and also offered obeisances to the associates of Vishnu. In the meantime, he became as brilliant as and illuminating as molten gold. He was thus completely prepared to board the transcendental.
So he first worshipped the plane. The paraphernalia of the Lord is equally worshipable. Prabhupada writes, in the absolute world, the plane, the associates of the Lord, and Lord Vishnu himself are all spiritual. There is no material contamination. In quality, everything there is one. As Vishnu is worshipable, his associates, his paraphernalia, his abode, his airplane, everything is as good as Vishnu. And because Dhruva, he is a great devotee, he knew all this, he offered respects to the airplane also. And as he's boarding, as he's offering obeisances, his body became brilliant. That means his body became completely spiritual. He didn't have to change his body became spiritual, like gold. Prabhupada writes, Mayavadi philosophers cannot imagine how this oneness can be achieved even in different varieties. How can one become one? How can the plane, the Lord, the associates, they be one? They are all spiritual. Yes, they are one, but still there is variety in that. But their idea of oneness is there is no variety. Prabhupada writes, As Shishumar, Vishnulok or Dhruvalok are completely different from material world, so a Vishnu temple is also different. Prabhupada would always tell, Prabhupada writes here also, the forest is in the mode of goodness, cities are in the mode of passion, the brothels are in the mode of ignorance, and the temple of the Lord is transcendental. It is Vaikuntha. So Prabhupada writes here the same thing. So that's how Dhruva, he became brilliant. The more one advances in spiritual life, the more one becomes alert and respectful towards everyone. Because he realizes that everything is connected to the Lord, everything is the energy of the Lord. He becomes respectful to all the paraphernalia also, just like Mridanga, the books of the Lord, the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is actually not different than Krishna. One time, one devotee, he heard that Bhagavatam should never be touched to the ground. Prabhupada was giving a class. And he thought, maybe I should give a Bhagavatam cover to Srila Prabhupada, so that Prabhupada can just be comfortable while holding Bhagavatam, and he can keep the Bhagavatam in that cover. So Prabhupada, when he gave that Bhagavatam cover to Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, oh, I never keep my Bhagavatam down. Why you are giving me this Bhagavatam cover? And Prabhupada started chastising him. You may be keeping your Bhagavatam down. I never keep my Bhagavatam down. Why are you giving me this Bhagavatam cover? You don't, I don't need this. You take this. वो बेचारा एकदम बोले अपसेट ही हो गया, बोले अरे प्रभुपाद तो पूरा फायर ही कर दिया मेरे को. So if we are not careful in dealing with the paraphernalia of the Lord, and if one only deals with the Lord, that is a neophyte mentality. Somebody thinks, oh, Vaishnavas ठीक है, ये तो है, लेकिन भगवान को ज्यादा रिस्पेक्ट देते हैं. No, Vaishnavas, the deities, the devotees, any paraphernalia, they are equally important. There's a famous story of one time Ramanujacharya, he was arriving in Melkote, and there were two disciples of Ramanujacharya in Melkote. One was a very rich person, and other was a simple Brahmin. So Ramanujacharya, he sent his disciples to inform कि भाई Guru Dev is coming, you please make arrangements. So these two disciples, they went to the house of this rich disciple, and he told, Guru Dev is coming, please make arrangements. So this merchant, this disciple, was so happy hearing that Guru Dev is coming. He started making all the arrangements. Very wonderfully, he made all the arrangements for his living, his prasad. But he forgot to give nice reception to the two disciples of Ramanujacharya. They were so ecstatic hearing that Gurudev is coming. Anyways, they didn't mind. They went back and told that this disciple of yours is doing all the wonderful arrangements. So Ramanujacharya asked him, how did he treat both of you? So they said, Gurudev, actually he was too busy preparing for your arrival. He didn't ask us for anything. Ramanuja said, we will not go to his house. You go to the other person's house and you tell him that I am coming. So they again went, and he was a poor devotee. And when they went, he welcomed them nicely. He gave them nice sitting place, reception, wonderful prasad. And then he started making arrangements for Ramanujacharya. So they went back and told, oh, this devotee welcomed us nicely. Ramanujacharya said, we'll go to this devotee's home. So that's how, if somebody thinks I will only deal with Lord, I'll not I'll not worship devotees, that is a neophyte mentality. So, as Dhruva is now boarding the plane, Chakravarti Thakur writes, He circled the plain and then worshipped it by offering sandalwood and flowers, saying, Bhagavad Vimanaya Namaha. He offered obeisances to Bhagavad Viman, and he desired to board the plane. Now something interesting is going to happen. Tadottanpada putro dadarshantakamágatam mrityormurtni padam dattva arurohadbhutam griham. Translation.
When Dhruva Maharaj was attempting to get on the transcendental plane, he saw death personified approach him. Not caring for death, however, he took advantage of the opportunity to put his feet on the head of death, and thus he got up on the airplane, which was as big as a house.
As he is now getting on the plane, death personified very humbly came. Well, death personified doesn't come humbly. But for Dhruva, death personified very humbly came with his folded hands. It will come in the next verse. He was actually with folded hands requesting Dhruva, can you please give up this body of yours? I think इसमें नहीं आता है. इसी में है. Prabhupada writes, to take the passing away of a devotee and passing away of non-devotee as one and the same is completely misleading. So Dhruva, he saw death personified, but he was not afraid. So Dhruva is standing with his folded hands. Can you please give up this body of yours? Because you can't go to this body. You have to leave this body. But Dhruva, he was completely fearless. His body was not material. He took advantage of the death's presence. And how a devotee transcends death. He put his feet on the head of death personified and made him a step to climb this plane. So for a devotee, death is just a step to go to spiritual world. Prabhupada writes, people with a poor fund of knowledge do not know the difference between death of a devotee and death of a non-devotee. Prabhupada gives a famous example. Cat carrying kitten and the cat catching a rat. The mouth of the cat remains the same, but the experience is poles apart for a rat and for a kitten. For devotee, it is like a loving embrace of a mother. The death is not fearful. The death is not, something to be afraid of. Death is a way just to approach the Lord. Prabhupada writes, when he boarded the plane, he took advantage of the arrival of death personified, who came, here he writes, who came to offer him obeisances. Death personified came to offer obeisances. But Dhruva, he put his feet on the head of death personified. And then Prabhupada describes about the plane, the unique airplane. Prabhupada talks about the plane which was made by Kardam Muni. Then he talks about the modern scientists. When they make planes, it is very discomforting. It is not so pleasurable. But the plane made by Kardam Muni, it had all the wonderful facilities. These planes could fly anywhere in the outer space. Okay. So as Dhruva, he boarded this beautiful plane. What happened then? So devotee is always fearless. For a non-devotee, it is very, very scary situation. A non-devotee, he's sorrowful about the past. He is very fearful. He's painful. He's in pain in the present, and he is fearful of the future. ऐसा क्यों हो गया मेरे साथ? He is sorrowful always, and he is always thinking, क्या चल रहा है? क्यों हो रहा है? Now I'm in such a painful situation, and he's fearful what will happen in the future. But for a devotee, he is not sorrowful. He knows what has happened in my life. It is happening by the will of the Lord. He is not in much pain because he has realized that I am not this body, I am soul. And he's not fearful about the future because he knows nothing happens without the will of the Lord, especially for a devotee. So he's completely fearless. Dhruva, he boards the plane. And then what happens? Yes, translation, somebody?
At that time, drums and kettle drums resounded from the sky. The chief Gandharvas began to sing, and other demigods showered flowers like torrents of rain upon Dhruva Maharaj.
Sorry. Okay. So all the Gandharvas and all the demigods, they started showering flowers. And the kettle drum started sounding. Up now. Something interesting is happening here. That is the mood of a devotee again. Another wonderful example Dhruva is showing. What he did? Sacha swaralokamarokshan sunitim jananim dhruva anvasmarad agam hitva dinam yasye trivishtapam. Translation.
Dhruva was seated in the transcendental airplane, which was just about to start. When he remembered his poor mother, Suniti, he thought to himself, how shall I go alone to the Vaikuntha planet and leave behind my poor mother?
That is how grateful a devotee is. He remembered his Path Pradarshak Guru. You know, this is the description coming after 36,000 years. The first description was 36,000 years back. बीच में सुनीति का कोई description नहीं आ रहा है यहाँ पे. And Dhruva is pure devotee. But gratitude is the basic principle a devotee should follow. To be grateful to everyone who helped us in Krishna consciousness. Gratitude is not a part of devotional service. To be grateful is devotional service. To be grateful for everything we have achieved in our life. Grateful to everyone. Tam sukharadhyam rijubhir ananya charanirnibhir kritagyako nu seveta duraradhyam masadubhi. Only a demoniac person is ungrateful. A person who is sadhu will always be grateful. So Dhruva, he had such a great obligation. Prabhupada writes, Dhruva had a feeling of obligation to his mother Suniti. It was Suniti who had given him the clue, which had now enabled him to be personally carried to Vaikuntha Loka by associates of Lord Vishnu. So actually, Suniti was his Path Pradarshak Guru, the Guru who shows the way. Such a Guru is also called as Siksha Guru. Narad Muni was his Diksha Guru, but Suniti was his Siksha Guru. It is a duty of Siksha Guru or Diksha Guru to instruct a disciple in such a way, in the right way, and it depends on the disciple to execute the process. The Guru may show us the way, but it is our responsibility to follow that path. If you are not following that path, then the instructions are of no use. Prabhupada writes, according to Shastric injunctions, there is no difference between Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru. And generally, Siksha Guru later on becomes Diksha Guru. Suniti, however, being a woman, and specifically his mother, could not become Dhruv Maharaj's Diksha Guru. Still, he was not less obliged to Suniti. There is no question of carrying Narad Muni to Vaikuntha, but Dhruv Maharaj thought of his mother. because Narad Muni is already a liberated being. There is no question in thinking, अरे नारद मुनि का क्या होगा मेरे को जो लेके आए भक्ति में, उनके बारे में सोचने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. So he's thinking of his mother. How can I leave my mother behind? Prabhupada writes, whatever plan Supreme Lord contemplates immediately fructifies. This is very, very important. The Lord is Satyakam. The devotee of the Lord is also Satyakam. Whatever Prabhupada desired, in due course of time, it happened. Devotee, by the mercy of the Lord, also becomes as powerful as the Lord. So, devotee who is completely dependent on the Lord can also fulfill his wishes by the grace of the Lord. The Lord fulfills his wishes independently. The Lord doesn't have to depend on anyone to fulfill his desire. Devotee also fulfills his wishes, but not independently. Because he is so very dependent on the Lord fulfills all the wishes of his devotee. So therefore, Prabhupada is not waiting for the story to reveal itself. Prabhupada is telling everything in this purport only. Therefore, as soon as Dhruva thought of his poor mother, he was assured by the associates of Vishnu that Suniti was also going to Vaikuntha. Dhruva had thought that he was going alone, which was not very auspicious, because people would criticize him. भाई जिसने तुमको डिवोटी बनाया उसको छोड़ के चले गए. Dhruva was thinking like this. But Dhruva, as he was thinking about his mother, Lord fulfilled his desire. Of course, it was not that only because Dhruva thought like that. Suniti is also a very, very great devotee of the Lord. That's why she could handle the situation in such a devotional way. She directed Dhruva to the Lord. तमेव वत्साशय भृत्य वत्सला मोक्षिभि मृग्य पदाप्य पद्धतिम अनन्य भावे निज धर्म भाविते मन अवस्थाप्य भजस्व पुरुषम. Who can do that? In such a difficult situation, only a devotee can give such response. So she is not an ordinary person. She is a great devotee. And we heard when Dhruva was performing austerities in forest, Suniti was also doing tapasya, intense devotion. Prabhupada writes, but Dhruva also considered that he was not personally the supreme. Therefore, if Krishna fulfilled his desire, only then would it be possible. Krishna could immediately understand his mind, and he told Dhruva that his mother was also going with him. This incident proves that a pure devotee like Dhruv Maharaj can fulfill all desires by the grace of the Lord. He becomes exactly like the Lord. So as Dhruva is thinking like this, what happened? Iti vyavasitam tasya vyavasaya surottamau darshayam asaturadevi puro yanena gacchatim. Translation.
The great associate of Vaikuntha Loka, Nanda and Sunanda, could understand the mind of Dhruva Maharaj, and thus they showed him that his mother Suniti was going forward in another plane.
So she was already going in another plane forward. So Nanda and Sunanda, they are informing, don't worry, they are as powerful as the Lord. So they understand the mind of Dhruva, and they are assuring, don't worry, O Dhruva, your mother is already going in another plane. So Prabhupada writes, in this purport, Prabhupada is a very, very wonderful, humble statement. He says, this incident proves that Siksha or Diksha Guru, who has a disciple who strongly executes devotional service, like Dhruva, can be carried by a disciple, even though the instructor is not as advanced. Although Suniti was an instructor, she could not go to forest, because she was a woman, nor could she execute austerities. Still, Dhruv Maharaj was able to take his mother with him. Conclusion is that a disciple or an offspring who is very strong devotee can carry with him to Vaikuntha Loka either his mother, father, Siksha or Diksha Guru. Then Prabhupada quotes Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. If I could perfectly deliver even one soul back to Godhead, I would think my mission propagating Krishna consciousness to be successful. And then Prabhupada writes such a wonderful, humble statement. The Jagat Guru, who has made hundreds of temples, thousands of disciples, he is writing this statement. Krishna consciousness movement is now spreading all over the world. And sometimes I think that even though I am crippled in many ways, if one of my disciples becomes as strong as Dhruv Maharaj, then he will be able to carry me with him to Vaikuntha Loka. That is the humility of Srila Prabhupada. He is setting such a high standard of humble disposition. Right? Who is Prabhupada? That personality who is mentioned in scriptures, who is predicted by great acharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Nityananda Prabhu. He is telling, if one of my disciples can become pure devotee like Dhruva, I'll also have some hope. So what is there for us to be proud of? Everything we have is because of the mercy of the devotees, mercy of our Guru Parampara. Okay, so now, Tatra Tatra Prasansadvi Pati Vaimanika Surai Avakiryamano Dadrishe Usumai Kramashograhan.
While Dhruva
When
Maharaj was passing through space, he gradually saw all the planets of the solar system, and on the path he saw all the demigods in their aeroplanes showering flowers upon him like rain.
So all the demigods on the way, they are showering flowers. Prabhupada writes a wonderful message to all the mothers in the purport. Prabhupada writes Prabhupada writes a message to all the mothers. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada writes, like Shri Suniti, Shri Suniti, every mother should train her child to become a devotee like Dhruv Maharaj. Suniti instructed her son, even at the age of 5 years, to be unattached to worldly affairs and go to forest to search the Lord. She never desired her son to remain at home comfortably. Every mother, like Suniti, must take care of her son and train him to become a brahmachari from the age of 5 years and to undergo austerity and penance for spiritual realization. The benefit will be that if her son becomes a strong devotee like Dhruva, certainly not only will he be transferred back to Godhead, but she will also be transferred with him to spiritual world, even though she may not be able to undergo austerities. So Dhruva is now passing through various planetary systems. Trilokim Devayanena Sotivrajya Muninapi Parastad Yad Dhruva Gatir Vishnu Padam Atahabhyagat. Translation.
Dhruva Maharaj thus surpassed the 7 planetary systems of the great sages who are known as Saptarishi. Beyond that region, he achieved the transcendental situation of permanent life in the planet where Lord Vishnu lives.
So as he's passing by, he's traveling through various planetary systems, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Maharaloka. And ultimately he, okay, not जनलोक तपलोक, उसके नीचे ये सप्तऋषि नीचे आते हैं, सप्तऋषि के ऊपर आते हैं ध्रुवलोक, ध्रुवलोक के ऊपर ये जनलोक महरलोक ये सब शुरू होता है. So this will be described in fifth canto. Now, Dhruva Loka is the topmost level of Swargaloka. स्वर्गलोक, ध्रुवलोक के नीचे फिर ये सप्तऋषि और ये सब ग्रह तारा नक्षत्र ये सब आते हैं. So Dhruva is passing through all these planetary systems, graha, nakshatra, all the seven saptarishi, and then ultimately he reached his Dhruva Loka. He achieved the transcendental position of permanent life in the planet where Lord also lives. So Prabhupada writes about the airplane was piloted by Nanda Sunanda. Only such spiritual astronauts can pilot their airplane beyond the 7 planets, not ordinary people. Parastasmatu bhavo anyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha. Only a spiritual astronaut can take one to spiritual world. Not everyone can do that. So Dhruva Loka, as Dhruva Maharaj has now reached Dhruva Loka. So from 36 to 40th verses, the glories of Dhruva Maharaj is described, and in the end, it will be described by Maitreya Muni, something very interesting, which will form the basis of the next further chapters. So I'll recite this 36th verse. Yad bhrajamanam swaruchaiva sarvato lokastrayo hi anuvibhrancha vibhrajanta ete yannavrajanjantu shuyenu yenanugraha vrajanti bhadrani charanti yemisham. Translation.
The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone all the illuminating planets within this material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. Only person who is constantly engaged in welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planet.
So what is the glory of this Vaikuntha planet? Vaikuntha means Dhruva Loka. Yad bhrajamanam. The bhrajamana means that effulgent, illuminating, swarucha, self-effulgent. Natad bhashayate suryo nashashanko napavaka. There is no need for any other illumination. Swarucha. Bhrajamanam, swarucha, sarvato loka, all the other planets, they are actually getting illuminated vibhrajanta ete. Because of the illumination of Dhruva Loka, all the other planets are getting illuminated. That is very important information. It is not like other planets. All the other stars which we see in the space, all the other planets which we see, छोटे छोटे जो तारे दिखते हैं, what are they actually? There are millions of stars seen in the sky at night. What are they actually? They are not the stars as described by scientific world. They are not self-illuminating. All these stars, they are actually the vehicles of various devatas. There are millions of devatas. They all have their vehicle, and all these stars, they are moving around Dhruva Loka. So all these devatas, they are moving around Dhruva Loka. So what we see as stars at night, that is just the vehicles of these devatas. And what are they doing? They are just reflecting the illumination of Dhruva Loka. So that is what is described here. Yan na vrajan. यहाँ पे कौन नहीं पहुंच सकता है? जंतुषु ये ananugraha. Ananugraha means those who are not merciful to other living entities. That is very interesting. It is not described. Those who perform devotional service, they can reach there. Those who are not merciful to other living entities. Vrajanti bhadrani charanti yenisham. Only persons who are vrajanti bhadrani. महद विचलनम नृणाम गृहीणाम दीन चेतसाम निश्रेयसाय भगवान कल्पते नन्यथा क्वचित. Only great souls travel only for the welfare of people in general. Brajanti bhadrani. So these great souls, they only travel for the welfare of people in general. They can reach the Vaikuntha. सब लोग नहीं पहुंचते हैं वैकुंठ. It is the nature of a devotee to be merciful to the living entities, compassionate. And they can only become qualified to go back to spiritual world. So Prabhupada writes, there are two aspects of Vaikuntha. First is that in Vaikuntha there is no need of sun and the moon, natad bhashyate suryo na shashanko na pavaka. Prabhupada writes about this reflection. All these others are other planets, they are just reflecting the light of the spiritual planet. Second, he writes, from this material world, however, people can be transferred to Vaikuntha if they incessantly engage in welfare activity for others. What is that welfare activity? Krishna consciousness. No other philanthropic activity, nothing else. A Krishna conscious being is always engaged in planning how to take all the suffering humanity back home, back to Godhead. Even if one is not successful in claiming all the fallen souls, still very interesting, because we may be thinking, भाई कैसे होगा? वो तो प्रचार करने से, जब तो प्रचार नहीं करेंगे तो नहीं जाएंगे. Prabhupada says, even if others they don't get benefited, we will be benefited. Very interesting line, very important line Prabhupada writes. Even if one is not successful in reclaiming all the fallen souls, still, because he is Krishna conscious, his path to Vaikuntha Loka is open. He personally becomes qualified to enter Vaikuntha Loka. And if anyone allows follows such a devotee, he also enters. That is how devotee is the greatest welfare worker. Yanna brajantya kavido rachana anuvada shrindvanti anya vishaya kukatha matigni yasta shruta hat bhagay nibharata sara. So this verse says, only those yanna brajanti who cannot enter Vaikuntha Loka, who are not engaging in discussions of Krishna. Shrindvanti anya vishaya, they just absorbed in hearing the other topics of the world. That is kukatha. That is not a right katha. That is not auspicious katha. That is kukatha. So if we start preaching, others may get or may not get benefited, but we will get benefited for sure. Even if nobody becomes Krishna conscious, the preacher will become Krishna conscious for sure. What else is there in this Vaikuntha Loka? Shanta Shamadrisha Shuddha Sarva Bhutanuranjana Yante Anjasa Achyuta Padam Achyuta Priya Bandhava.
Persons who are peaceful, equiposed, cleansed and purified, and who know the art of pleasing all other living entities, keep friendship only with the devotees of the Lord. They alone can very easily achieve the perfection of going back to home, back to Godhead.
So some more qualities of people who can achieve perfection. Shanta, they are peaceful. Samdrisha, equipoised. Shuddha, purified. Sarva Bhutanuranjana, who knows the art of pleasing all the others. Yanti, Anjasa. Anjasa means very easily they alone achieve Achyut Padam, they achieve perfection. Achyut Priya Bandhavaha. And these devotees, they make friendship only with devotees. सबके साथ ये devotee friendship नहीं करते हैं. So Prabhupada writes, the description of this verse fully indicates that only a devotee is eligible to enter. There are no jnanis in spiritual world. There are no yogis in spiritual world. There are no karmis in spiritual world. You'll never see anyone doing Ashtanga yoga in spiritual world. Nobody is standing on head. Nobody is doing pranayam there. भाई थोड़ा प्राणायाम करके भगवान को याद करना है. No, there are only devotees there. And Prabhupada writes, why the devotees are peaceful? Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kami, Sakal Yashan, Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ateva Shan. Because the devotee's only desire is to serve Krishna. That brings greatest peace in life. All the others are just hankering for something. Karmis, they want sense gratification. Jnanis, they want knowledge. They want liberation. The yogis, they want mystic power. Devotee is completely dependent on the Lord. He doesn't want anything. Just like a child depends on the parents. So Prabhupada writes, that's why he is Shanta. Prabhupada is describing in detail about each and every word. He is Samdrisha. He sees everyone on equal transcendental platform. A devotee sees all living entities with spiritual vision and does not discriminate. He is transcendental. He sees with equal vision. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane, Gavihastini, Shuni Chaiva, Shopakecha, Pandita, Samadarshina. Devotee doesn't make any discrimination in preaching Krishna consciousness. Such qualities develop only in association of devotees. Without the association of devotees, one cannot advance in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is focusing on this last line, Achyut Priya Bandhav. Devotees make friends only with devotees. That's all. That's why Prabhupada writes, we have established this Krishna consciousness movement where people can come together and establish relationship, make good friends, good devotee association. That is Sarva Bhutanuranjananaha. That is pleasing to everyone. So devotee, he is welfare worker of everyone. And he gets completely purified. Shuddha. Then Prabhupada describes our Shuddha from here. As for purification, no one can be more pure than devotee because Yasmaret Pundarika Akshasa Bahyabhyantara Shuchi. Just by remembering Krishna, one gets purified. Prabhupada writes, Shuchi hoy, muchi hoy, yehi Krishna bhaje. Muchi hoy, shuchi hoy, yehi Krishna tyaje. Prabhupada writes that. Muchi hoy, shuchi hoy, yehi Krishna bhaje. Muchi means, mochi बोलते हैं ना, mochi. वो mochi इधर से, muchi से mochi आया है. One who repairs the shoes, mochi. So mochi, generally shoes are made of leather. And only low class people, they repair that shoe. So anybody who is muchi, he is contaminated, he becomes shuchi. Shuchi means pure. If he is worshipping Krishna. So devotees are the purest. Next verse. Ityuttanapada putro dhruva Krishna parayana abhut trayanam lokanam chudamani ivamala. Translation.
In this way,
the fully Krishna conscious Dhruva Maharaj, the exalted son of Maharaj Uttanapada, attained the summit of the three statuses of planetary system.
So that's how Chudamani Iva. Dhruva is the crest jewel of all the worlds. Chudamani have. So he continues, Maitreya Muni continues. Translation, next verse.
Saint Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, descendant of Guru, as a herd of bulls circumambulates your central pole on their right side, all the luminaries within the universal sky unceasingly circumambulate the abode of Dhruva Maharaj with great force and speed.
So with great force and speed, all the planets, all the stars, all the nakshatras, they revolve, keeping Dhruva Loka in the center. So I'll show you just this picture. Just the fifth canto, there is a similar this description. So ये कैसा दिखता है? This is a diagram which is made. Yeah, you can see this. So as you can see in this, I'll just use the pointer just a minute. So this is Dhruva Loka, and all these small dots which we are seeing, these are the various stars. And this dolphin which we are seeing here, this is called as Shishumar constellation. Now हम लोग इसके बारे में 5th canto में पढ़ेंगे. What is this Shishumar constellation? ये नक्षत्र है एक. So all the stars and sun, they all revolve around Dhruva Loka. You know, they are just revolving around, keeping Dhruva Loka in the center as an axis. So these are like these strands which you are seeing, they are the invisible ropes which connect all the planets to Dhruva Loka. It is like a bull which is tied to the center pole. So that is the glory of Dhruva Loka. यहाँ पे लिखा है ropes of air, and they are the invisible ropes of air which binds all these stars and planets to Dhruva Loka. Okay. Translation. Next verse.
After observing the glories of Dhruva Maharaj, the great sage Narada, playing his veena, went to the sacrificial arena of Prachetas and very happily chanted the following three verses.
Now this is very interesting. This creates a inquiry, question in the mind of Vidurji. So Maitreya बोलते हैं ये जो नारद मुनि है ना, he is singing the glories of Dhruva Maharaj, and once he went to the assembly of Prachetas and he chanted the following 3 verses glorifying Dhruva Maharaj. So Narad Muni is such a wonderful spiritual master. He is glorifying his own disciple. Just like a father, he is very happy to see his son advancing more than him. So Prabhupada writes here, as a father is very happy to see the son's advancement in every respect, so the spiritual master is very happy to observe the ascendancy of his disciple. So Narad Muni in the assembly of Prachetas. So what happened was, when Pracheta, this story will come in the end of this 4th canto. Prachetas are the sons of Prachina Barhi, and they did intense tapasya. They pleased Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu awarded all of them one wife, Marisha. They married, all of them married one girl, Marisha. And they lived their life nicely. At the end, they left everything, went to forest, and there they met with Narad Muni. And there Narada Muni instructed them about the principles of devotion. And in that, he described about the glories of Dhruv Maharaj. What he spoke to all these prachetas, that is described here. Narada uvacha nunam sunite pati devataya tapa prabhavasya sutasya tam gatim दृष्ट्वाभ्युपायनापि वेदवादिनो नैवाभिगन्तुं प्रभवन्ति किं नृपा. Translation.
Hare Krishna. The great sage Narada said, simply by the influence of his spiritual advancement and powerful austerity, Dhruva Maharaj, the son of Suniti, who was devoted to her husband, acquired an exalted position not possible to attain even for so-called Vedantists or strict followers of the Vedic principles, not to speak of ordinary human beings. Hare Krishna.
So Dhruva, by his power of devotional service, he achieved a position which was unattainable for Vedic followers. Nunam, certainly, Pati Devataya, although the son of Suniti, who was very attached to her husband, Suniti was very attached to her husband, but son of Suniti, Dhruv Maharaj, by his austerity, attached means devoted to her husband, by his tapasya, tapa prabhavasya, by the prabhav of his tapasya, Suniti Putra, he attained a position, Drishtva Abhyupayan. He achieved a position which was na ved adhigantum, na naiva adhigantum, which was very difficult to attain even by Vedavadina. That is the glory of Dhruv Maharaj. So Prabhupada focuses on this word Vedavadi. Who is Vedavadi? Or just interested in the following, in the descriptions of the Vedas. As Prabhupada, as the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Vedavadarataha Partha. Vedavadarata means those who are attached to the Vedas without understanding the purport of the Vedas. They are just following the Vedic rituals without understanding the ultimate goal of the Veda. Vedesha sarvair ahameva vedyo. They are not able to understand that. Dhruv Maharaj attained that. Translation, next verse.
The great sage Narada continued, just see how Dhruv Maharaja, aggrieved at the harsh words of his stepmother, went to the forest at the age of only 5 years and, under my directions, underwent austerity. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unconquerable, Dhruva Maharaj defeated him with the specific qualifications possessed by the Lord's devotees.
So Narada Muni is just telling the story how Dhruva, he was so very aggrieved by the harsh words. He worshipped the Lord at 5 years and achieved the Lord. Prabhupada writes in the purport, devotee, Lord is unconquerable. Prabhupada is focusing on the word Ajitam Prabhu. Ajita means unconquerable Lord. The Lord is unconquerable, but he is controlled by the devotee's love. As Krishna says in Bhagavatam, it is described, Evam sandarshita hi anga harina bhrityavashyata swavashenapi yas krishnena yasyedam sa ishwaram vashe. Entire universe is under the control of Lord Krishna, sa ishwaram vashe, but he comes under the control of his devotees. Aham bhakta paradhino nahi aswatantra ivad dvija sadhuvir grastridayam bhakter bhakti janapriya. Dhruva, Krishna is telling to Amrish Maharaj, Lord Vishnu is telling to Amrish, Dhruvasa, I am not independent. You are coming to me and you are telling me to protect you from this Sudarshan. I can't do anything for you. You go and ask forgiveness from my devotee Amrish, because I am not independent. I am controlled by my devotees' love and devotion. Prabhupada quotes, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that everyone comes before the Lord and offers him exalted prayers, but the Lord does not feel as pleased when such prayers, when offered such prayers, as he does when a pure devotee out of pure love chastises him as a subordinate. Aishwarya Gyane te sarva jagat mishrit, Aishwarya shithila prema nahi mora preet. Entire world is worshipping Krishna in Aishwarya Bhava. Oh, he is the Lord, he is all controller, he is Jagatpati, he is Jagadish. Krishna says, I don't like this much. But when my devotees, when my Gopa friends, they climb on my shoulder, Sakha mere shuddha bhave skande arohan, tumi kone bada loka, tumi amasam. Oh, what type of big person you are? Yesterday only we defeated you. Krishna likes it more. When the gopis, they chastise Krishna, that chastisement is more pleasing than Veda Stuti. Priya more man kori koray bhartsang sarva Veda Stuti hoy hare moraman. So that's what Prabhupada is writing here. Krishna is pleased by this devotee. And although Dhruva was just 5 years old boy, because he had taken shelter and taken instructions from Narada, he achieved perfection. That is the first principle of devotional service. Adau Guru Padashraya. The sum total of devotional quality is development of unalloyed love. And this unalloyed love can be achieved simply by hearing about Krishna. So that is the glory of Dhruv Maharaj. At such a young age, he achieved perfection. And then, in verse number 43rd, yeah, please read the translation.
Hare Krishna.
Garam pani.
Dhruva Maharaj attained an exalted position at the age of only 5 or 6 years. Hare Krishna. After undergoing austerity for 6 months, after undergoing austerity for 6 months, a great Kshatriya cannot achieve such a position even after undergoing austerity for many years. Hare Krishna.
So again, Maitreya Muni is telling, Narad Muni is telling, what Kshatriyas could not achieve after many years of tapasya, Dhruva achieved in just 6 months, at 5 years of age. So Dhruva Maharaj, Narad Muni is saying he is Shatra Bandhu. Shatra Bandhu means he was not trained properly also. He is not a Kshatriya yet. He was just a Shatra Bandhu. He was the son of a Kshatriya. But still, because he found such a great spiritual master, he achieved the perfection of life. So Prabhupada writes, there is an instant of Bharat Maharaj. He attained Vaikuntha in 3 lifetimes. Pehle Bharat, then a deer, then Jad Bharat. But Dhruva attained this perfection in 6 months. The lesson, Prabhupada writes, this is a very powerful lesson. Lesson from the life of Dhruva Maharaj is that if one likes, one can attain Vaikuntha Loka in 1 life without waiting for many other lives. My Guru Maharaj used to say, every one of his disciples could attain Vaikuntha Loka in this life without waiting for another life. One simply has to become serious and sincere as Dhruva Maharaj. बस और कुछ करना ही नहीं है, खाली ध्रुव महाराज के जैसा बनना है बस. Prabhupada writes very simply all these things. You know, simply has to become as serious and sincere. बस और क्या है, ज़्यादा कुछ करना थोड़ी ना. Then he says, then it is quite possible to attain Vaikuntha Loka in 1 life. मतलब समझिए, ध्रुव महाराज की जैसा करेंगे तो एक लाइफ में पॉसिबल है। That is the glory of Dhruv Maharaj. Now, the last section of this chapter describes the Falashruti of this entire Dhruva episode. Translation.
The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, whatever you have asked from me about the great reputation and character of Dhruva Maharaj, I have explained to you in all detail. Great saintly persons and devotees very much like to hear about Dhruva Maharaj.
The pastimes of the Lord and pastimes of the devotees of the Lord, they are always powerful. They are always pleasing and attractive. And all the devotees, they like to hear about Dhruv Maharaj. Even Mahaprabhu liked to hear about Dhruv Maharaj. As he was sitting with Gadadhar Pandit in Tota Gopinath, he would hear 100 times. He was not so much interested in going to hear Rasa Leela Adhyay, Ras Panchadhyay. He was focused on hearing about the devotee Katha. Shrutasya pumsam shruchirashramasya nanvanjasa surabhiridito arthaha tat tadgunano shravanam mukunda pada ravindam hridayeshu yesham. It has come earlier. Maitreya Vidurji is telling that if one endeavors to hear about something, one should hear about devotees, because devotees have Krishna in their heart. Endeavor to hear about them. Prabhupada writes, Srimad Bhagvatam means everything in relation with Supreme. Whether we hear the pastimes of the Lord or of the devotees, they are all same. One time, one devotee asked, Prabhupada, what if at the end of our life we remember you? What will happen? Prabhupada closed his eyes, paused for some moments, and then he said, that's all right. Whether one here remembers Krishna or whether one remembers pure devotees of the Lord, the destination is the same. So one should not be interested, one should not rush to hear all the esoteric pastimes. Prabhupada writes about Rasa Leela. A sincere devotee should read every chapter, every word of Srimad Bhagavatam, for the beginning verses describe that it is a ripened fruit. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam. Devotees should not try to avoid even a word of Srimad Bhagavatam, because they are approved by great devotees. Sammatam satam. The word used here is sammatam satam. The last is sammatam satam. This is a very beautiful verse. We'll recite this. Dhanyam yashashyam ayushyam
Dhanyam yashasya
punyam swastyayanam mahat
punyam
swargyam dhravyam saumanasyam
Swargyam
Swargyam
Dravyam
prashasyam aghamarashanam.
By hearing the narration of Dhruva Maharaja, one can fulfill desires for wealth, reputation, and increased duration of life. It is so auspicious that one can even go to a heavenly planet or attain Dhuvaloka, which was achieved by Dhruva Maharaja, just by hearing about him. The demigods also became pleased because this narration is so glorious and it is so powerful that it can counteract all the results of one's sinful actions.
That is the power of hearing Dhruv Katha. So many wonderful benefits. Dhanyam. It is all auspicious. It will give wealth. Many times these Falashrutis, they have some material component. So that any materialistic person will also be attracted. It is a trap. It is a trap. It is a hook for materialistic persons. भाई किसी से तो आएगा, ये न किन प्रकारेण उसको लेके आना है, डिवोटी बनाएंगे हम उसको। कृष्ण कथा सुनने के लिए आएगा, ओके, भौतिक चीज मिलेगी, ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम, यू कम। काम लागी कृष्ण भजे पाए कृष्ण रसे, नो वी हर्ड लाइक लास्ट टाइम, काम लागी कृष्ण भजे। For material things, you are worshipping Krishna, you will get Krishna rasa only. That is the power of Krishna Katha. Dhanyam, Yashasyam, reputation, Ayushyam, increased duration. It is Punya, it is all auspicious, Swastyainam. If you want Swarga, you will get Swarga also. And if you want spiritual kingdom, board of the Lord, you will get that. It is Aghamarshanam. It destroys all the sinful activities. So Prabhupada writes how Krishna Katha is for everyone. Akama, Sarvakam, Mokshakam, whoever you may be, you will achieve the same result. So that is the power of Krishna Katha. This is another very interesting. Shrutvaetat Shraddhaya Bhikshnam Achyut Priya Cheshtitam Bhaved Bhaktir Bhagavati Jaya Syat Klesha Sankshayah.
Anyone who hears the narration of
Testing
Dhruv Maharaj and repeatedly tries with faith and devotion to understand his pure character, attains the pure devotional platform and executes pure devotional service. By
Yes.
such activities, one can diminish the threefold miserable condition of material life.
Shrutva etat. By hearing this, Shraddhaya with faith, Abhikshanam repeatedly. खाली एक बार नहीं सुनना है, हाँ भाई खत्म हो गई ध्रुव कथा, कितना अच्छा लगा, आगे बढ़ेंगे हम, हरि बोल। Repeatedly we have to keep hearing. Mahaprabhu has shown by his personal example. Repeatedly, Abhikshanam. This katha is Achyut Priya. It is dear to the Lord. And these activities of the Lord and the activities of the devotees of the Lord, they increase devotion. Bhaved Bhagavati Bhakti. One attains pure devotional service, and Klesha Sankshaya. Again, some material benefit is given. The material miseries are destroyed. So Prabhupada writes about Achyut Priya. Dhruv Maharaj's reputation is so great because he is such a great devotee of the Lord. As the pastimes and the activities of the Lord are pleasing to hear, hearing about his devotees are also similarly pleasing and potent. If one simply reads over and over again by hearing and reading this chapter, one can attain the highest perfection in any way he desires. Most importantly, he gets a chance to become a great devotee. So whatever you want, one can achieve. Yat karmabhir yat tapasa jnana vairagya shayat yogena dana dharmena shreyobhiritarerapi sarvam madbhakti yogena madbhakto labate anjasa swarga apavarga madhama kathanchid yadi vanchati. Whatever you want by the practice of devotional service. You want swarga, the results which are achieved by karmic activities, by tapasya, by jnana, by vairagya, by yoga, by dana, by dharma, sarvam mad bhakti yogena, by my devotion, mad bhakto labate anjasa, my devotee gets very easily. क्या चाहिए आपको? स्वर्ग चाहिए, मिलेगा. मुक्ति चाहिए, मिलेगा. You want devotion, you will get that also. Okay. Next is also very, very wonderful verse. Now 48 to 50. Okay, we'll recite 47. Mahatvam ichchatam tirtham
Mahatam Ichidam Tirtham
rotu shiladayo guna
Shiladayo gunaha
yatra tejastadichunam
Yatra
Yatra
te
tejastati chuna
Mano yatra manasvinam.
mano
mano
yatra
yatra
manasvinam.
manasvinam.
Hare Krishna. Anyone who hears this narration of Guru Maharaj acquires exalted qualities like him. For anyone who desires greatness, power, or influence, here is the process by which to acquire them. And for thoughtful men who want adoration, here is the proper means. Hare Krishna.
Practically, they are all materialistic benedictions just to attract anyone. आपको क्या चाहिए? You want to become great? You want to develop high character? You want to develop good qualities? You want power? क्या चाहिए आपको? Whatever you want, you will get this by reading and hearing this Dhruv Katha. So then 48 to 50, he describes the way of reciting this story. कब पढ़ना है ये? I'll recite this. प्रयता कीर्तये प्रातः समवाये द्विजन्मनां सायं च पुण्यश्लोकस्य ध्रुवस्य चरितं महत्. Translation.
Hare Krishna.
The great sage
Maitreya.
Maitreya recommended one should chant of the character and activities of Dhruv Maharaj both in the morning and in the evening with great attention and care in a society of Brahmanas and other twice born persons.
So Prabhupada writes how this Krishna consciousness society is organized in such a way that every morning and evening one is getting chance to hear Hari Katha. Prayah sayam, pratah sayam. Subah sham sunna chahiye with attention and care. So Prabhupada writes how this society is planned like that. And anyone can become successful. Anyone can join this and can become twice born. So Prabhupada writes how in this Kali Yuga everybody is a Shudra, but Sanatana Goswami describes that by this process of chanting, even a Shudra can become a Brahmana. Yatha Kanchanatam Yasti. Vijatvam Jayate Nidam, just like when the copper is mixed with bell metal, it becomes gold. When a mercury is mixed with some bell metal or something, so it becomes gold. Similarly, by this practice of devotional service, even a Shudra becomes qualified to be a Brahmana. And then next verse, he continues. Persons who have completely taken shelter. Yeah, somebody can read the translation, please.
Person who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord should recite this narration of Dhruva Maharaj without taking remuneration. Specifically, recitation is recommended on the full moon or dark moon day, on the day after Ekadasi, on the appearance of the Shravana star, at the end of a particular tithi, or the occasion of Vyatipata, at the end of a month, or on a Sunday. Such recitation should of course be performed before a favorable audience. When recitation is performed this way without professional motive, the reciter and audience become perfect.
Very clearly, दान नहीं लेना है, दक्षिणा नहीं लेना है भाई. ये कथा करने के बाद दक्षिणा नहीं लेना है. Then it will be beneficial, and both the reciter and the audience becomes benefited. So naturally, Prabhupada will emphasize on how one should recite Bhagavatam without any ulterior motives. He gives all the gali. Professional reciters may ask money to extinguish the blazing fire within their bellies. अरे Prabhupada तो ऐसा मतलब गाली देना है तो solid royal देते हैं. But they cannot make any spiritual advancement. Oh. It is therefore strictly forbidden to recite Bhagavatam as a profession. Okay, it must not be done as a business. मतलब पूरा Prabhupada purport में वही लिख रहे हैं. How it should be done just to please the Lord, not as a business. Next verse, translation.
Hare Krishna. The narration of Dhruva Maharaj is sublime knowledge for the attainment of immortality. Persons unaware of the absolute truth can be led to the path of truth. Those who, out of transcendental kindness, take on the responsibility of becoming master protectors of poor living entities automatically gain the interest and the blessings of the demigods. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So those who give this knowledge to others, they get blessings of the Devatas also. So that is the power of this Dhruva Katha. They don't just get the blessings of Supreme Lord, even Devatas are pleased with them. Prabhupada writes, Jnanam Agyata means the knowledge which is unknown almost throughout the world. No one knows what is absolute truth. Materialists are very proud of their advancement, but no one knows. Prabhupada went to this MIT, the famous Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It is like the higher version of IIT also. Prabhupada writes, you have all the institutes in this MIT. Where is the knowledge of Almighty? So you're proud of your advancement in education. Where is the knowledge of absolute truth? So Prabhupada is writing about that. Therefore, the great sage Maitreya recommends that to enlighten people about the absolute truth, the teachings of Bhagavatam should be spread throughout the world. Therefore, Vyasadeva has compiled this Bhagavatam. As Vyasadeva saw the miseries of people of the world, he compiled Vedas, then edited them and wrote Bhagavatam in the current form. Okay, then Prabhupada writes, this Bhagavatam is meant to glorify Bhagavan, not any other form of the Lord. And he says fundamentally there is no difference between Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, but if one practices devotional service, that gives the highest perfection. And devotees are engaged in that welfare activity, therefore they are called Kripalu. So Prabhupada writes about that, how devotees are Kripalu, they are Deenanath, they are Deenabandhu. So all those terms Prabhupada describes. Okay, so the last verse, translation please.
The transcendental activities of Dhruva Maharaj are well known all over the world, and they are very pure. In childhood, Dhruva Maharaj rejected all kinds of toys and playthings, left the protection of his mother, and seriously took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. My dear Vidura, I therefore conclude this narration, for I have described to you all its details.
So that's how Maitreya Muni ends this wonderful narration of Dhruva Maharaj, which is all wonderful, all famous, all pure, how he left his home as a child and he took shelter of the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada writes, it is said by Chanakya that life is certainly short for everyone, but if one acts properly, his reputation will remain for a generation. As Supreme Lord is everlasting, famous, the reputation of his devotee is also everlasting. So that is how Dhruva Maharaj attained perfection. So I'll stop here. I have to just travel somewhere. So we'll continue next time from 13th chapter. The description of the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. So from here, another description will start. And the basis of this description will be, Vidurji asks, आपने बताया नारद मुनि ने प्रचेतास के ये इसमें असेंबली में ध्रुव महाराज के बारे में बताया. प्रचेतास कौन है? He was not thinking, अच्छा हुआ खत्म हो गया ध्रुव महाराज का स्टोरी, थैंक यू वेरी मच, हरे कृष्णा. He is very very eager to hear more about Prachetas. So Prachetas का क्वेश्चन आया तो Maitreya Muni starts describing the descendants of Dhruva, because Prachetas come in the descendant dynasty of Dhruva Maharaj. That will be described in the next class. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagvatam ki
Jai.
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 Jai.